So here's what's funny is that speaking of not remembering, is I looked at when I reached out and I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to you about your recent New York trip. And I was like, what the hell happened in New York? Do you remember what happened in New York in February?
I do just about, yeah. I do just about. It was a blur, but I think you reached out off the back of the post about fitness facilities in New York. Basically, I've been to New York many times over the last 10 years, and the landscape's changed so much since 10 years ago, when there was CrossFit gyms dotted all over the city, good CrossFit gyms as well, and leading studios like the First Barry Studios and things like that. You were well ahead of where we are in London, and I was just surprised when I visited this time. It was the first time I've been in 4 years that there was all the CrossFit gyms are gone. The Barry experiences were not good compared to what we have here, and there was just given the rise of hybrid fitness and the relevance of this call, there was pretty much not much
Well,
around.
listen, don't tell the CrossFitters that, because they're very upset with HYROX. They're very territorial in this bizarre, strange way. And I don't understand it because, prior to the hybrid stuff, my main focus was obstacle racing. And when people would do other things, and of course they would, either they would try something or move to it, CrossFit, powerlifting, trail, ultras, we would be like, cool, good for you. Not like, well, it's not obstacle racing, so it's not real. And like, these CrossFitters are so territorial. But I have my own theories. I would love to talk to you as someone who has been in this space a while. What is different about this? Why is this not a fad? Why is this not just spin or berries or whatever the heck is come and gone in these cycles? What are your theories on why hybrid is blowing up? I mean, you could say HYROX, but there are other players coming in the game. So let's just say fitness racing in this hybrid space.
Yeah, I think I definitely. So I'm a CrossFitter still, and I do HYROX. And like you, I like everyone. I think it's great that I think it's great that people play other sports. And actually, I believe Greg Glassman said that CrossFit, part of doing CrossFit was to play other sports. Even he said that. So I think they've forgotten that, the CrossFitters. But anyway, I think CrossFit was to the start of everything. And I think when I came into the space as a retailer, we saw CrossFit as the sport of fitness, but I think it was obvious even then that the sport of fitness had much more scope than just CrossFit and barbells and gymnastics. And even at the time, I think people used to say, if someone could bring this together into a standard format, and a slightly more accessible standard format, then it could skyrocket. It could hit the mass market, which CrossFit wasn't. Because let's face it, then as it is now, the barbell is intimidating, and therefore the CrossFit gym can be intimidating, especially in the environment they're in. Whereas HYROX is not intimidating, and the simplicity is the beauty in it. So I think it's just it is an evolution of CrossFit, and I think that's why, again, if you're a fan of both sports, you've got to thank CrossFit for what it's done, because everything came from CrossFit, didn't it, ultimately?
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but I'm not fine with this other thing that, well, everything is CrossFit, right? So if you go to the average, right, you see an article every day, Dan, right? It's like all the mainstream media articles are sending their person and like, I tried this crazy new fitness craze. And then so you see the comments from the internet, so outside of our world, and it's always the same thing. Looks like CrossFit, looks stupid, whatever they say, right? And so you see these arguments break out, and it's you'll see. So I just saw one yesterday, which is why it's fresh on my mind, on Reddit, where the guy said, well, it's basically just CrossFit. And the guy said, yeah, but isn't this good because it's not intimidating like handstand walks or complex movements? And he's like, my gym is scaled, we never do that stuff. It's like, right, but perception is reality. And you just saying that, even to me, I've been a runner, and when I started going to a running coach, and the first time she had me squat, I was terrified, right? Because it's like, ooh, that's what big football players do, right? I'd never done it. And, that in alone is extremely, and that, like, a squat isn't even a complex movement. It's something that you could probably learn in a day. So anyway, you're right. It is so, and I don't understand why they just can't like welcome us into the pool as, oh, cool. This is really good fitness that you're not just getting on the treadmill for an hour every day, or you're not just running that block you've run and you're not losing any weight because nothing's changing in your in your overall fitness.
Yeah, I totally agree. It should be, everyone should be welcoming from both sides. I think it's a generational thing though, because I think 20 years ago, CrossFit was the first sport of fitness. So that was the start, and now we've got CrossFit, OCR, and HYROX or hybrid. So that's like this generation, and I'm sure it will evolve again. And maybe it is that at the moment everyone's butting heads, but maybe in 5 years we'll all be one family. I don't know. But like you said, it's just not a bad thing. The great thing about all these sports are that everyone is doing more fitness. Like fundamentally, everyone is doing more fitness, and what we forget, and I think what CrossFitters forget, or maybe us in the world of fitness, is that 10 years ago, barely anyone did fitness. You'd go to a Lifetime, or in the UK, a Pure Gym, and you'd go in your soccer shorts or rugby shorts, and you'd lift weights, and you think you're doing fitness, but that consumer set's just grown, but it's still a small subset of society. Like most people just don't work out still. So CrossFit is intimidating to those people. The people that don't work out, CrossFit is intimidating to, and anyone can see that.
So let's get into some of this business stuff. Do you have any early line on who's going to buy CrossFit?
Well, I mean, I've heard. Well, I can't say what I've heard, unfortunately. I think.
Let me just say this: we've heard. It's got a like a like we or B Fitness. We've heard of those guys, right? Like they're one of the players, right?
Yeah.
So is that rumor? Is that fact?
I think I can say it's a fact that they're interested in the business. I think they would be a good partner from what I've heard, because they're privately owned, so it's not private equity. They've been in the CrossFit community 10 years, so they understand the consumer mindset. They understand that affiliates need help, which they obviously do. We've seen the declining figures. They are CrossFitters, so I'm not sure how they again would take to the hybrid piece. But hopefully, going in with your eyes open, you've got to embrace the change in the sport. But I've heard that they could be great partners if it's that group.
What do you think they need to start doing or stop doing kind of like right away? Like, what do you think their first, I don't know, 100 days, 6 months should be to kind of straighten the ship over there?
I think the foundation of the CrossFit business is the affiliates. As far as I know, it drives a very large percentage of the revenue. It's down 25%, I believe, on last year. So the first thing they need to do is to convince the affiliates to stay. And I don't think it necessarily needs a price drop, even though the price rise last year was crazy. I think the affiliates need to know what value the organization is adding for them. How do you run a gym? Like, most people that own affiliates are still not business people. How do you get people in the door? How do you convert people? How do you retain members? How do you have the best coaches? What square footage should you have in your gym? What does the equipment look like? They could build relationships with the equipment providers, be it Rogue or Alico, etc. Bring the prices down for gyms trying to open affiliates, just like boutique places. But I think fundamentally they have to come in on day one with a 5 or 6 point plan to affiliates. This is what we're going to do for you, and make sure they retain those affiliates. I also don't think it would be a bad thing if they stopped new affiliates for a period of time, were focused on the affiliates that we've currently got, introduced geographical restrictions, so you can't open on each street corner, and just consolidate where we are at the moment.
Yeah, and there might be an added benefit to that, right? If you say we're stopping for a while, that might make somebody, the kind of like demand thing, like, ooh, I have to wait, and then they wait, and then it's like more exciting, like not doing that on purpose, but it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you've basically just solved their problems. It's kind of like, what the heck have they been doing? Oops, my phone just rang. Because you hear this all the time, right? Like, well, it's not just supposed to be about the games. It's supposed to be about the affiliates, and they're not doing enough for the affiliates. They're not doing enough for the affiliates. Like that seems to be the same thing I've heard. And remember, I'm not in it 100%, but from the outside, it just looks like, isn't that what they're supposed to be doing? Providing education, providing all those things you were saying. How do I be profitable? I mean, is it that most people that are affiliated are just a gym owner that's excited and doesn't know anything, and it's too hard to train people? Or what has been happening the last decade?
Well, I think that's a key point. I think definitely when CrossFit started, the beauty and the beast, it was that the beauty of it was that you could go and open a CrossFit gym in a local warehouse with a very low amount of money, let's say $50,000-$60,000, and you could bring people in and you could start turning money over. The beast is that those people, most of them, had no idea how to run a business, and it's not that easy to make a profitable business. So all the things I mentioned earlier, the problem is that people don't know that. I think, to be fair to CrossFit, I think sometimes they're vilified too much for the lack of help, because what people have been paying for fundamentally until the last couple of years is a very, very strong IP. So the IP of CrossFit is still, but was incredibly strong, as you know. When the CrossFit Games is at its peak, we've got 400,000 people doing the Open. You've got a couple of million people worldwide training. Whenever people like me go on a holiday, first thing you do is type into Google CrossFit gym. They only used to pay $2,000 a year. In my opinion, that is fair for that IP. The issue is the IP is not strong now. HYROX is a big thing. Maybe people are typing in HYROX instead. And I think without the business resources, be it all the things I've mentioned, or booking platforms and things like that, without that included in the fee, it becomes a bit sticky, I think.
Yeah, if I'm starting a gym today, or if I was affiliated, I certainly don't see why I wouldn't use just the word fitness or strength and conditioning, as many people are. And then you can kind of, you don't have to be all things to all people, but you could teach some CrossFit methodology and not be a CrossFit gym, not be a stereotypical box.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could always, now the strength of the IP is dropped, then yes. And also, we forget that, if I'm a gym in the middle of nowhere or London, whatever, and you travel here, I'm not CrossFit or HYROX affiliated. I can still bid for the words CrossFit or HYROX on Google.
Right.
So, and then people will look at an image, and I'll have a rig and a sled track, and people will be, that's it.
Right. I mean, it is harder without those actual words, but yeah, I mean, here's what's interesting. I think, CrossFit historically and famously was like, you can't call yourself that without us. And then once you do, you can kind of do whatever you want. And HYROX have allowed people to affiliate, but there's already kind of out of control use of the word HYROX. And I don't know how much time they're putting towards it, but I don't think it's like the fire hose thing, right? I sent something the other day to Mintra. I said, is this you guys? Mintra is one of the founders and head of sport over there. It was this race. The Instagram account is called HYROX Simulations something. And you look at the pictures, and it's the blow up yellow and black, inflatables, and it's a HYROX race, right? And so I don't know if they're affiliated or not, but you kind of can't do that. And so as soon as I sent that to her, I was like, hey, you may want to reach out to those guys. I saw like 3 more. So I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, that's not my job. I'm just like, and the idea of, hey, we're going to do a HYROX sim or a half rocks. So for perfect example, this gym near me, my wife and I are doing doubles. She wants to practice. Last weekend, they had a front half of the race. This week, they're doing a back half of the race. But it's not the track. It's just, we're going to run out and back in the parking lot and do the stations. It's clearly not, right? But then I've seen other gyms say, oh, no, we're a HYROX simulation. And they are doing the 8 stations. You might be fooled into thinking you're doing a HYROX, is what I'm saying. And so, but it only costs $30 or 30 pounds. So anyway, I think they're going to have to eventually get their arms around it. But right now, like I said, it just feels like the fire hose is just coming out.
Well, that's a really interesting point, because obviously, going back to CrossFit, like their whole business was built on IP and ownership of not only that word CrossFit, but multiple other phrases: fittest on earth, 3, 2, 1, go, The whole business is built on that. So, and you'd be sure that as soon as you mention one of those phrases, there'd be a cease and desist through the post, and that is what built them into such a powerhouse. So I think you're right. I think initially I thought it was clever, sell an affiliate for $500, or now it's 1,000, I think, isn't it? You get the coaches get free tickets, everyone's a winner, but now it is a bit crazy. It's
Well,
mad.
and they're already having a problem with this the tickets thing, right? They were giving affiliates the first sign up, and of course, it's a code that they're going to give to all their friends anyway, and so then the public is shut out.
I didn't actually know that was happening. So yeah, I mean, in London, obviously, it's crazy. It's like there was 48,000 people on the wait list for the next event in May, and like, no, you're not getting tickets, are you, for 48,000 people?
Right. And I don't know if you heard Mo on the Business of Sport podcast, but he said, listen, we could charge more and we don't. And I agree. Like I think that's very forward thinking of them, because all those people that bought those tickets at 200 pounds would probably pay 300, right? At this point. But they're not doing that, which is smart, because obviously that's a way to kind of alienate your customer. But the races sold out too fast and my track was too crowded is a problem for them.
Yeah, the track too crowded thing is a problem, isn't it? Especially in London, and especially I'll be interested to see at this Olympia venue, because I don't know if you've been, but it's tight. There's posts everywhere. Like, it's tight. It's an amazing venue, but it's tight.
Smaller,
so yeah,
is it smaller
is
than the SEC in Glasgow?
It's quite similar in that the course is a bit like, the corner's not a corner. You've kind of got to do a double, like a figure of 8. So it's quite similar, but it's an amazing venue, and it is a stunning venue. But yeah, that's right. You're right. Like, at some point, the consumer will get a bit annoyed at that. At the moment, we're still going up, aren't they? But at some point, people are going to get annoyed.
Yeah, we are. I don't think we're at the peak. I think we're still on the rise. America still, it's not in that many cities, and there's countries that they still aren't even in yet, right? So I don't like. Have we ever seen anything like this? I mean, it feels like this is the ceiling is just so much higher than anything we've ever seen.
Well, yeah, I think so. When I came into the space 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we probably naively thought that CrossFit could do this, just because at that point it was going crazy. Like, not mass participation events like this, but there was affiliates opening every week, like everywhere in the world, and that went up to 15,000, which is still historically the biggest chain of affiliated gyms in history. But now we've got this simplicity and accessibility. I think that this is now a sport, a global sport in its own right. And I thought CrossFit would become that, but HYROX is becoming that. As in, it could be a household sport, a household name in every household. You will have heard of HYROX. I think it's, I agree with you. We're nowhere near the peak.
Well, England has a few gym events, fitness racing events that are popping up. America really doesn't, outside of DECA, which is a Spartan product. And I have all kinds of thoughts on that we can talk about later. But I keep asking, where is the other big player? Where is somebody else that goes, here's our fitness race with different stations? Although I did some research, you cannot trademark a workout. You cannot trademark even the order of like, you could really do the 1 through 8 races and it's not really trademarkable, although that'd be a slightly tougher battle. But it seems like somebody with money could come along and say, man, do I see the money just being printed by HYROX, whether it's a private equity group or a gear making brand or a race brand. I keep waiting for those people to come, and I'm shocked they haven't done it.
Yeah, I think the UK is an anomaly at the moment. It is crazy. Every weekend there's a mass participation event. There's 2 other event series here, one called Turf Games, one called Athex. And Turf Games has been around 5 years. It kind of started off as like CrossFit functional, and now it's more accessible. They've got 8 or 9 events globally, which gets 5,000 to 6,000 people at every event. And Athex is growing very, very fast. And I don't know if you've seen Athex, but it basically it has the HYROX element, it has the cardio element, but then it has a metcon and a strength element. So 3 workouts over 3 hours. So that's appealing to the CrossFitter. So I think they're well backed financially, and they've got an Adidas sponsorship, so they could emerge as well. And I think we can't forget CrossFit. We can't forget CrossFit. If new ownership comes in, and that sport has new leadership, new strategy, we can't forget CrossFit. It could become a huge mass participation event again.
Yeah, so actually I've been to Athens. I've come over for FitFest the last couple of years. I think they're leaning too much into CrossFit, and I don't think they'll ever get kind of the mass participation HYROX crowd. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's what they want. But I just think the way they do the strength zone, I just don't think they'll get past that in terms of what the regular HYROXer wants to do. They did change. They added a track now, I understand, and not just on the machines. But then there's this thing called metrics. I don't know if you saw that. They just did
I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of those guys?
I know them. I think it was cool the way they integrated music and like the nightclub vibes with the workout. And the workout was hard. It was hard. And the beauty of it is, as I'm sure you'll agree, is, well, not the beauty of it, but for some people, running. So some people, because there's no running, there's just like small shuttle sprints, but really the whole thing is machines.
So do you know what the thought process was in the early days of CrossFit that, there's been a million local comps, right? But they never thought like, well, what if we did one that was a little bit not quite, that's not the games, but that regular people could do. And I heard, on one of his videos, Castro said, oh, we could do that easily. And my thought was, well, then why wouldn't you have done that yet?
No, it's never been done internally at CrossFit. It's always, but there is obviously local CrossFit competitions where they make it infinitely scalable for, well, I mean, the best example is Wadapalooza. Wadapalooza is the best example. They'll have scaled RX, intermediate, elite. So, and anyone can enter, and that is scalable, and it shows the infinitely scalable element of CrossFit. But CrossFit themselves have never done it. They've never run an internal competition apart from CrossFit semifinals, CrossFit Games.
But
so, like you say, I don't know why
even
not.
Wadapalooza was only been one event a year. Now they finally launched a West Coast version.
Well, yeah, good point. I mean, there's been no multi-event series that have rolled it out, and Wadapalooza, I think that was the plan. I assume that was the plan originally. They were charging HYROX prices. They were charging $120 to enter that event as a scaled athlete. I think there was, 5,000-6,000 athletes doing it. So not far off some of the US events, HYROX. So it had the legs.
And so, what are you up to lately? I know that you sold a company and then took it back.
Yeah, so I owned a retail business called Whit Fitness in the space, and we focused on that CrossFit consumer. That's why I'm so into it. We focused only on the CrossFit consumer for many years because we saw how they were a cult consumer. They spent money head to toe consistently, just like the hybrid consumer is doing now on running shoes and running kit. We grew really quickly. Then we had a bit of a head to head with our private equity group back in a few years ago. So me and my co-founder left the business, then went into distress, and then we bought it back recently. So it's exciting for us because we've grown with this fitness sector. Like we were there at not the outset of CrossFit, but really the outset of CrossFit as a sport. We've seen that consumer, almost an example of me myself, gone from like a serious CrossFitter to a HYROX consumer, a slightly older HYROX consumer. We've seen the HYROX consumer, the spending is the same as the CrossFit consumer, just on different products. So for companies like us, it's great. There's just more people. There's more people working out. It's fantastic.
So what are you doing? Like, what is your mission these days?
So we were a multi-brand retailer before. So we sold the likes of Nike, Under Armour, Rad, all those kind of products for the CrossFit consumer. Now we're focusing on our own clothing brand. So we've relaunched Whit as a training brand. So it'll be like highly functional, high performance product head to toe, and we're also working with those footwear brands still. So we're selling unique footwear brands and our own clothing brands, and our customer will be the serious fitness consumer. So when I say serious, I mean 5 to 6 days a week, hour a day at least, serious about fitness, going to HYROX events, going to CrossFit events, not the kind of guys going once or twice a week, not so serious about fitness, not just treating it as an add-on. We're all in with the serious consumer. And it's super exciting just because the consumer is growing.
So can you explain to me how that works? Because I saw there was because obviously when you go to like a Fit Fest, it's an expo and all these people have booths, but there was a I want to say an exhibitor that kind of just described what you were doing, but I can't think of who they were, and they had a bunch of different brands. And I remember thinking, like, why does if I'm the brand, why do I decide to work with you instead of my own retailer? Right? Do you know who I'm talking about, by the way? Do you know who was there?
Yeah, Kitbox.
Yes, there. Good name too, right? Kitbox. Okay, that's where I get my kit. Okay.
Good name, yeah. So it's an easy answer for that one. So we're not that anymore, because we're just doing our own clothing plus shoes. Whereas Kitbox and the Whit of old were selling 70, 80 brands, like accessories, clothing, footwear, everything. Now the reason they work with retailers, and specifically us, is the consumer inside out. We know where the consumer's going. We know where they're shopping online. We know what products they want to wear. These guys at these brands have no clue. They're not connected. they're not connected.
Aren't there well-paid marketing managers, et cetera? It's brand managers that are like making really good money to supposedly know that.
There used to be, but from what I see these days at some of the big players, I'm not going to name them, but
yes, let's throw them right under the bus, Dan.
They do not know the customer at all. They don't know, for example, I went over to one of these brands 2 weeks ago and spent a day describing the difference between CrossFit and HYROX to their senior leadership team who are producing products. So they work with retailers because the retailer...
Are they, dare I say, boomers? Is that why? Like older than you and me?
No, not at all. Not at all. But retailers, traditionally retailers, brands work with retailers who are specialists for their niche audience. So our niche audience and Kitbox, their niche audience is CrossFit and HYROX, or the fitness consumer. So the likes of Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, they're a big machine, right? They've got soccer, athletics, basketball. They connect with the consumer through specialist retailers, and those specialist retailers, yes, they sell some products, but what they're really doing is they're helping the marketing of the bigger brand. So it's a connection with the community.
Interesting. You probably saw like the feed just signed all these HYROX athletes, and they're essentially the same thing, but for nutrition. And again, I've never used it. I've just, either been at the running store or I hop on Amazon and I just buy what I need. But apparently it's something that people do.
Yeah. What, nutrition wise?
Yeah.
I mean, the nutrition world's gone mad. Like,
I've never shopped. Just listen, I'm sure they're great people, but I've never used the feed. It's just like, what do I need? I need some gels for this ultra. Let me go to Amazon, or the next time I'm at the running store, I grab a bunch, or you know what I mean. But people use these sites as a way to, I'll take some of this Cliff and some of this other brand, and et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. And some of these sites, like some of these retailers in our sector or the nutrition sector, so some of the brands will work with them exclusively. So they might even do product that only they will sell, not even the brand. And that provides a lot of hype around the brand itself. It provides some hype around the product, and it helps the retailer. So there will be unique products. There is in footwear and clothing anyway. I'm not sure about nutrition. There will be unique products for specific retailers. When we were operating before, we would get shoes which no one else in the world would get. So only we would get, not even Nike. And you'd sell, back in the day with CrossFit, you'd sell 2,000 shoes in 5-10 minutes, because you'd be the only people who have them, and the consumer, as you and I know, is obsessed with.
So you had a relationship with the Nike where they would say, "Listen, we're going to give you this version of the Metcon 5 or whatever."
Yeah.
What, with your own branding on it, or what was different?
Yeah, we had our own branding on it before. So the two instances, we had one with our own branding and one where, remember when Matt Fraser had a Metcon, Nike would have 2,000 pairs, we would have 2,000 pairs. That would be it worldwide. And we were way better at marketing that shoe because we were speaking to the CrossFit consumer, whereas Nike were just putting it on their URL, on their website. They don't know who they're speaking to. So people would buy it off us, sell out, and then they'd just go straight to Nike.
What are your thoughts on kind of the way things are marketed these days? Because the idea of, oh, let's not use a celebrity, let's use what we used to just call early adopters and what we now call influencers. And I keep hearing like, oh, we're not spending big money on influencers anymore. But I don't know about you, but my feed is still filled with lots of people pushing stuff. Every CrossFit athlete, most of their posts are something they're pushing. So what are your kind of thoughts on where marketing is going that way?
I think there's a place for both. I think the odd athlete has the X factor. And it might not be the top athletes in any sport, but some athletes just have the X factor, whether that's their personality, their look, whether they're specifically good at one thing, which is good on video. Those people will sell product. They will sell product now. They will sell product in 20 years. And I've had experience with that. Then there's other athletes, which unfortunately, because maybe they lack the personality or they lack they're not outspoken. They toe the line too much. So athletes, very few of them will shift large amount of products, but those that do will sell a lot of products. And we're finding, I'm finding it in the Whit business and other businesses I'm involved. You're right. The more authentic early adopters are the ones shifting the product at the moment. And whether that's people with 5,000-6,000 followers who are coaches and may have 500 people on a closed community group, or whether it's the people with 15,000, 25,000 followers who are still authentic, but they're not trying to push product. Those people we see real traction with. Obviously, for brands, it's attractive because you're not paying $100,000 a year, $100,000 a year for them. It's either a product relationship or kind of an affiliate fee piece. So it's much better.
So Puma definitely all in on hybrid. I've been waiting once they made their big announcement at last year's World Champs around Hunter and Meg. And then I think they've added some people since. I've kind of been waiting like, well, where is, we say Adidas, you say Adidas. Where is Adidas? Where is Nike? Do you know if they're about to sign some athletes without naming names?
So they're definitely, those two brands are definitely interested in this sector. Definitely. So I know footwear is being developed across the board. And I know they're looking at athletes. Yeah. So they've finally woken up. Those brands.
This points to your question of like them not knowing what's happening.
Honestly, you can't blame them. By the way, like remember that Adidas is $20 billion company, Nike's what, 40 billion. Like they have bigger things going on than HYROX. I think Jordan does kind of however many 100 million a day, but they've realised that they've missed a trick here, and for has skyrocketed their business sport. They've done brilliantly to support it. They went all in early on. They put absolute faith in it and they backed it. And I think it's worked brilliantly for them.
Yeah, if you look at a start line, you're going to see that's what you're going to see, whether it's the Elite 15 or the regular people. Yeah, I was surprised when Ronco signed with On because like On is still not very big here. I mean, I see them around as running shoes, but I was kind of like, oh, I guess they make fitness shoes, and now I've been wearing some. I've been trying them out, but I would have expected expected Nike or Adidas to come in sooner.
The problem is that having spoken to both of those companies recently, the problem is so on that On shoe is not built for HYROX, obviously.
How dare you say that? How dare you?
So, and Nike, I actually wore the Alpha Fly last weekend for Malaga HYROX, only because I got they gave me the shoe, and the reason they're not pushing it is because the Alpha Fly is not designed for HYROX, and if you do a HYROX in it, there is areas where that shoe fails you,
such as,
and it's the same with
such
Adidas.
as.
I mean, there's no grip on the heel, so the sled pull is not ideal. Saying that, the Alpha Fly, without doubt, in my opinion, is the fastest super shoe out there. So on the running aspect is phenomenal. And then Addy developing a shoe, but it's not ready yet. So I don't think they want to push those products, because they will when the shoes are
What's
ready.
your theory on doing wall balls with no shoes?
I thought that was interesting. I mean, I don't see. Is there a marginal gain there?
I mean, listen,
I don't
listen.
know.
We talk about what the athletes want, right? That extra percent. I mean, my wife deadlifts with no shoes on, but I don't know if wall balls are necessarily better, right? Like, good to get the grip. But here's the question I have. I was told by someone who I respect, when the super shoes came out, and I was like, should I get one? And he's like, well, unless you're really going to run a sub X marathon or a sub X 10K, if you're a 52-year-old dad, like, it's probably not going to make much of a difference. So if it's not going to make a difference over a marathon, would it really make a difference for me running, a K at a time? Do I need a super shoe?
I think you do.
Sounds like a guy who wants to sell a lot of super shoes.
Yeah, true, but I genuinely, they do work. The super shoes do work, and honestly, I'm one of these idiots that spends $300 on all of them. So I've got the Saucony one, the Puma one, and I've got now the Alpha Fly. And the Puma is probably my favorite from a comfort perspective and all-round ability for HYROX, because it's designed for that. But the Alpha Fly, you feel like you're flying. So you do. So if you do want to run that 10K PB, I'd advise it.
All right, I'll maybe look into it, because I got last year's Pumas recently, because I didn't want to spend that much money. So I got a $70 pair on eBay, because they're last year's model and they're pretty good. Maybe I'll compare and contrast. So when you talk about you're selling your branding now, right?
Yeah.
And it's a well-known brand. I've seen it, right? Along the same lines, like, is your biggest competitor like a 247, as opposed to the big giant Nikes and stuff?
Exactly. I think so. I think fundamentally, when we had a retail business, 25% of that business was actually our own brand already. So the Whit brand was quite a big clothing brand. When we were in the business, we wanted to take it in that direction, because if you own your own brand, you're in control of your own destiny, and you're not relying on other people's products. And now we've re-released it. It's the perfect time, because, like, to your point with 247, these niche brands, 247, Bandit Running, all these small running companies, that's what the consumer seems to want at the moment. It's like an anti-corporate kind of vibe that also existed in CrossFit. And I think with Whit, we really do understand the consumer, what they want in the CrossFit gym and what they want, on a HYROX track. Our price point's lower than 247. It's more mass market, still aspirational, but more mass market. So we believe we'll produce great product at a good price point, basically.
But do they think they're cooler than you?
They probably are cooler than us. I mean, I'm not George, for a start. I'm not George. He is one cool guy, right?
So where are you? Like, do you guys have influencers, brand ambassadors, sponsored athletes? What do you guys have these days?
We don't. So we used to, again, back in the day when we were big in CrossFit, we used to sponsor Sarah Sigma's daughter, James Sprague, who won the CrossFit Games, Emma Lawson, Paige Powers. So we did great things with young athletes. And Sarah had the X factor. She had the X factor. She sold good amount of product, and she was just amazing brand ambassador. Now we've relaunched. We've only just relaunched. We are looking at, for the first time, we're looking for athletes now, and we would look in CrossFit and HYROX. So we're looking across the board.
We should definitely talk after this call. I'll give you some suggestions.
That'd be great, because actually before this call, I was actually thinking about. I was looking at various portfolios that I've been sent through, and I was just looking for the kind of young and up and coming, and always interested to chat.
Yeah, some of them are obvious. Some are slightly less than obvious. I posted yesterday. These guys started an agency. They're representing a bunch of these athletes, because they said they were shocked that these people didn't know how to negotiate. It's like, well, they're not professional athletes. These people were teaching class or doing whatever a week ago, or just a mom, or just a
Yeah.
straight job doing whatever. And so, and this is again what people don't understand. So I was at the birth and the growth of obstacle racing, and at our peak, right? Peak on NBC, and 12,000 people weekends, even at its peak, not nearly this much brand interest, not nearly this much money and marketing behind it. So there were these sponsors that kind of came and went, and most of them kind of went through Spartan Race, which is a whole other conversation. But having these people reach out directly to athletes, be like, we want to work with you, is a huge deal. And that is when you have a real ecosystem, right? When you have a real ecosystem
Yeah.
like CrossFit, right? It's not just CrossFit. It's the people that make the gear. It's the people that make the, and again, this is why I feel like we're just at the beginning. But yeah, some of these athletes just say like, I really don't want to post on Instagram. I don't know how I'm ever going to make any money at this, because they have to be okay with me never really talking about it. Or when I do, it feels awkward, or all those things, right?
Yeah, that's challenging in any sport, like even CrossFit. But I think what CrossFit did well, which will be interesting to see if HYROX do this, and probably not because they don't need to. They're making so much money. But CrossFit back in the day, remember they had such a good media team. So they built their media around these 20, 25 personalities. And those personalities exploded because it was the birth of Instagram. It was the birth of CrossFit. The media team were focusing on these athletes, and their profiles went through the roof. I don't know what will happen with HYROX, because I think it's down to the brand partners to give the athletes that exposure. But like you say, it feels like it did with CrossFit, but they just need that media attention. They need to build those profiles.
Right. And yeah, they don't quite have that yet. Like, as if you look, even, mentor, like Hunter and Meg and Lauren, the people who are the best in the world at it, if you look at their following, it's nice, but it's not, it's not millions, right?
No, because we need to, like, Hunter tells his own story great, brilliantly, but the other people need, like you just said, they need to tell their own story, or they need their brand partners to invest media dollars in telling their story. Like what I've found over the years is you can't just sponsor an athlete, give them product, fly them to events. You need to spend half the amount again filming video content, telling stories, telling them the people about their journey. That's what these athletes need, I think.
I mean, it feels like they're getting better at it. I see more and more videographers at these HYROX events, so I feel like they're starting to kind of try.
I think they are, but I think we need to see more. We need to see behind the scenes. We need to see them training together. Obviously, watching Tia is interesting because Tia, if you watch Tia training, she's getting Joanna's on camera as well. So that that you're seeing a bit of behind the scenes there, and I think that's what people want to see. I mean, Tia and James Newbury obviously are used to it. They know how to do it. They know how to create content. They know how to raise profiles. But it just everyone needs to help each other rise tides together.
Yeah, I think Tia is the best thing that could have happened to us, of all people, to get in, right? Because a lot of these people are getting
Yeah.
in, and even if they do well, it's kind of like they did it for fun, and I'm leaving. And Tia's like, no, 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 I'm gonna give this a real go. And I think she's gonna do individual next year. Everybody thinks she might. I think she will. Um, and again, she's already doing a ton of content. There was a new video she put up yesterday, and I know they're coming here. They're going to do a whole camp at Proven with JK and Joanna and all these other HYROX athletes. So I think she's the best thing to happen to the sport.
I agree. I think if she any HYROX event, whether it's the Elite 15 doubles or eventually the singles, who knows? She'll be one of the greatest sports people of all time. Like Commonwealth Games weightlifter, CrossFit Games champion, HYROX champion. I
I
mean,
don't know. I don't know if she can catch those girls in the singles, though. I don't know if she's fast enough. I don't. You
no,
like you. It'd be hard to get that much faster. I think I could be wrong.
I agree actually. So when she did that first race with James, I said to everyone, great result, but she's not going to get much faster. But then she went around 54 minutes with Joanna or something. And then, so I thought the same as you, but maybe we can't discount her. Maybe she needs 2 years, not one, but I don't
Well,
know.
my
I agree.
live show partner Dave, Claxton, broke it down, and he said, okay, if she does all the stations this fast and she runs this fast, it's still like a 60, I think is what he said, and like,
Yeah.
which again is amazing, right? Or even 59, but that's not where these women are going, right? These women are just getting faster and faster and faster. So, listen, if she did it, would I be surprised? No, but I'm not quite sure she can catch Joanna and Megan and Lauren.
I agree with that. There's one other female CrossFitter that potentially could, Christy Aramo. I don't know if you
Yeah, no, I
follow
saw, but
her.
she's one of these people who said like, yeah, it's fun. I mean, she qualified for Worlds and then just like, yeah, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go run another fast half.
But she ran like a 2:40 marathon or something. It's
So tell me
crazy.
what you think. I think for someone like her and a lot of these guys, they're not just retiring from CrossFit, they're retiring from air quotes competition. Like, ugh, I'm exhausted. This is my whole fucking life. Waking up, and obviously Christy is still going to train really hard, but that life of what it takes, Matt Fraser talks about it. Like, no. The difference in being a champion is I talk to no one else. I just do this. And the pressure of the sponsors and the pressure of the media. So I can see why she's like, I'm good. I'd love her to get there and race. I'd love her to push these girls, but I don't think she's going to.
I agree. I think Christy won't do it. I think she retired early from CrossFit for a reason. I think she had a baby, didn't she? I think she's just going to be a very good part-time runner and HYROX athlete like the rest of us, but much better. And that's happened a lot of recent years. A lot of the younger women have retired from CrossFit. Some men, like not everyone wants to do it, do they?
Well, we live in such an
their career.
interesting time because obviously it's been big news that these really young women are like, I'm taking a step back. And the idea that wouldn't be possible in years past. Nowhere, the pressure is so big. And because we put so much value on mental health and agency for yourself, that the thought even occurs, oh, I don't have to do this. When you look at all these 12 and 13-year-old gymnasts and swimmers that like their parents were like, yeah, you're an Olympian and that was it. Like you're going to do this no matter what. So it's great that we have this. And obviously for sport, we kind of wish we could see them more, but yeah, if they step away, this Mal already stepped away, right?
No, Mal and Emma Carey as well. Those two,
Right.
and they were potential games champions.
Right.
Christy was only 29, I think, when she retired, and yeah, it's crazy. But you're right. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's like in life in general. People, you can change. You don't have to do the job you're doing. Sometimes you can change direction, but there's so much pressure on the athletes. Yeah, I agree.
No, I heard it was a guy I know who's in the Navy, and he was talking about his experience, and he said, "I only have 10 more years." And I was like, "What?" But like to him, that was like, right? I've done half my time. In America, once you do 20 years, you can retire and you get a pension the rest of your life, right? So if
Yeah.
you get in early, you can still, but that was his phrase was like, yeah, I only have 10 more years and then I can do whatever I want. I'm like 10 more years, like 2 more years is a lot.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, yeah, it's a strange mentality, but I guess that's normal for most people.
So, I don't know. What are you excited about next? What do you want to talk about? You want to plug your company any, or I don't know. I mean, like I could talk to you for a long time about this stuff. You're obviously we see things similarly.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I'm just excited about the whole space. I like you. I think it's got a whole long way to go. I think there's an opportunity for our company at Whit, a huge opportunity. I think there's an opportunity for any of the companies in the space who do the right thing. I also think there's a huge opportunity back to, when you first reached out to me. I think there's a huge opportunity for gyms. I think in London specifically, it's a crazy space. There's a lot of CrossFit gyms, there's a lot of Globo gyms, but there's no one really doing it properly in this hybrid space. I don't know what it's like in America. I think we'll see a couple of concepts emerge that might focus, fully on the hybrid training athlete, whether that's HYROX performance centers or not. I think there's going to be huge opportunities there. I've heard of a couple of concepts emerging here. I just think we're at the start of the journey. There's so much to happen still.